In the headlines tonight, South Korea still hopes to hold inter-Korean talks this year, while Pyongyang condemns Washington's newest sanctions on North Korea. We take a look at the prospects of inter-Korean ties. Prosecutors announced their mid-investigation report on the latest leak of presidential documents. They say claims that a former aide of President Park exerted influence on personal appointments are false. Korea added a record amount of jobs last year, but there are concerns that too many of them are contract positions. Stay tuned for these stories and more coming right up. Very good to have you with us, and welcome to Early Edition at 6, live from Seoul. I'm Nahyun Kyung.
And I'm Daniel Che. Thank you for joining us. North Korea says the U.S. sanctions against the regime are a typical way of Washington showing hostility against Pyongyang.
Well, this while South Korea awaits North Korea's response on possible inter-Korean talks.
Our Connie Lee starts us off.
South Korea aims to push ahead with plans for inter-Korean talks, despite the recent flare-up in tension between North Korea and the United States. The spokesperson from Seoul's Unification Ministry says its proposal for high-level talks with Pyongyang remains on the table, despite Washington's announcement of sanctions against the North. The country's state-run media lashed out at the U.S. on Sunday, saying the new sanctions clearly demonstrate Washington's hostility toward the regime.
The policy persistently pursued by the U.S. to stifle North Korea, groundlessly stirring up bad blood towards it, would only harden its will and resolution to defend the sovereignty of the country.
The U.S. has slapped new sanctions on 3 North Korean organizations and 10 individuals for Pyongyang's alleged cyber attack on Sony Pictures, which produced the film The Interview, a comedy about an assassination attempt on North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. However, as North Korea intensified its rhetoric against the U.S., the communist state has not criticized the South as usual with verbal attacks. Pyongyang's main newspaper, the Rodong Shinmun, reported no criticism of Seoul on Sunday, and North Korea's propaganda website 우리 민족끼리 stated that the two Koreas should work together. Experts say North Korea has a motive.
By improving relations with South Korea, North Korea wants to show that the U.S. sanctions will be ineffective.
In the meantime, South Korea continues to wait on North Korea to respond to its earlier proposal for talks. Connie Lee, Arirang News.
A U.S. congressman says the new sanctions on North Korea will not deter cyber attacks from the regime.
Senator Robert Menendez, the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, told CNN that there needed to be real consequences for Pyongyang's actions. He also took issue with President Barack Obama calling the hack an act of cyber vandalism.
Menendez said it was a clear-cut case of terrorism. The senator also sent a letter to U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry asking North Korea be added back to the list of state sponsors of terrorism.
Well, in the meantime, humanitarian aid to the north from South Korea is becoming a bit more flexible.
That's right. A private organization sent 20 tons of sweet potatoes to the North Korean city of Siniju at the end of last month after receiving permission from the government. It represents the first time since President Park took office nearly 2 years ago that aid in the form of raw produce has been allowed to cross the border.
Well, the Unification Ministry says it recently relaxed its standards after limiting support over worries that other supplies may be used for military purposes.
All of this, it all started after the leaders of the two Koreas opened the new year by expressing a willingness to improve inter-Korean relations.
That's right. All eyes are on whether this will evolve into an easing of tensions on the Korean Peninsula. For more, we are joined by our very own Unification Ministry correspondent Hwang Sung-hee in the studio.
So, Sung-hee, let's start with a recap of the positive developments between the two Koreas recently.
Right. For now, both Koreas seem to be in the mood for dialogue. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, in his New Year's speech, made an apparent proposal for a summit. He was expected to show a willingness to improve inter-Korean ties in his speech, but this was quite unexpected. Take a listen.
Under the right mood and conditions, there is no reason for us to hold back from the highest level talks. We will put our utmost efforts for practical progress in dialogue and negotiations.
And this came just 3 days after South Korea made an offer for talks. South Korean Unification Minister Ryu Gil-jae again reiterated Seoul's hopes for any form of dialogue with Pyongyang following Kim's speech. And since then, we haven't seen any criticism from the north of South Korea.
And the year we started off by quite a surprising offer from both the leaders of both Koreas. So how will the newest U.S. sanctions affect this possible momentum between the two Koreas?
Well, Washington named 3 entities, including North Korea's military intelligence agency, and sanctioned 10 people with connection to weapon sales and proliferation. South Korea's foreign ministry has called this an appropriate response, saying such cyber attacks that damage private interests cannot be tolerated. Now, some say this could kill any momentum for talks, while others say North Korea is focused on targeting just Washington.
At this stage, North Korea is using a two-sided strategy by pressuring the U.S. to staying out of issues related to the Korean Peninsula and creating a mood for dialogue with the South.
And as we saw in Kanyu's reports, North Korea has been dishing out criticism at the U.S. for the last few days, but it has refrained from making one single negative remark about South Korea.
Now, other than North Korea suddenly changing its mind, what else could come in the way of improving inter-Korean ties?
Well, there are 2 events to watch out for in the first half of the year. South Korea and the U.S. are expected to conduct their joint military exercises in late February, which could raise tensions back on the Korean Peninsula. Now, North Korea has always protested the drills, and in his New Year's speech, Kim Jong-un demanded that Seoul call off the plans. And another potential source of contention is the opening of a UN Human Rights Office in Seoul in March. Still, many analysts don't expect Pyongyang to launch a provocation so soon. Take a listen.
There's nothing particular on the horizon that North Korea would have to respond to. So I think in many ways we're still on the positive part of the cycle. So I don't anticipate too many provocations from the North, but of course you never know.
And analysts say the next 50 days is crucial. That's the time leading up to the joint military drills. If the Koreas fail to make any progress by then, North Korea could launch another nuclear provocation. Who knows?
So what's the prospects of inter-Korean ties for the coming months?
Well, Kim Jong-un will seek to end its diplomatic isolation by making progress with South Korea. President Park Geun-hye will want to make some progress with North Korea in her 3rd term in office. Analysts don't expect a summit so soon, but definitely more dialogue at the lower levels to discuss issues like the reunions of war-separated families, the lifting of sanctions, and the resumption of South Korean tours to Mount Kumgang. There could also be more joint cultural events to mark the 70th year of independence, the 70th year of the division of the Korean Peninsula. And another interesting thing is we're also waiting to see if the 2 leaders will accept Russia's invitation to its 70th anniversary of the end of the World War II ceremony, although many doubt the possibility of seeing the 2 leaders in Moscow in May.
Well, so far so good. 2015 is turning out to be a great year for inter-Korean relations. We hope there's more to look forward to, and we hope you bring some great news again next time, Sang-hee. Thank you for that report.
My pleasure.
Business partners face a one-day entry ban.
Digging deeper, getting to the bottom of stories that impact your life. Talking with you on air and online. Connecting you with experts on the world's most pressing issues. News and current affairs at its best. With Na Hyung-kyung and Daniel Che.
Arirang News.
Arirang News. On Early Edition at 6.
A political scandal that's been brewing for weeks now appears to have no legs. The prosecution has determined that what they found in the recently leaked presidential documents was false. For the latest, here's Kwon So-ah.
Prosecutors indicted former presidential secretary Jo Eun-cheon on Monday on charges that he ordered a police superintendent to leak confidential documents that claimed that a former aide of President Park Geun-hye meddled in state affairs. The preliminary result of the prosecution's probe is that the allegations were false. The senior police official in question, Park Kwan-cheon, was indicted Saturday on similar charges that include handing over classified files to President Park Geun-hye's brother and making false accusations. On Monday, prosecutors also indicted a police officer who they say was involved in copying the documents that were leaked to the media. The scandal dates back to a report in the Segae Ilbo Daily in November. It began with allegations that President Park's former aide Chung Yun-hye secretly met with presidential secretaries and was seeking to undermine the current presidential chief of staff. Prosecutors say the meetings never happened. The case has stirred up the political arena in recent weeks and aroused criticism from the public, who want more transparency at the presidential office. After Monday's announcement, the ruling Saenuri party said the suspicions were absurd to begin with, while the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy said no one will trust in the probe's conclusion. They have called for a special investigation into the case. The presidential office of Cheongwade says it won't be making an official comment on the prosecution's findings. Kwon So-ah, Arirang News.
In other news, Japan is upping its campaign and education that Korea's Dokdo Island is Japan's territory. This as Japan is poised to expand an investigation on developing energy sources in the East Sea. Son Jung-in has the story.
This is a video released by the Japanese government titled "Islands Once the Home of Mechi or Sea Lions." The author of a book with the same title teaches elementary school students that Korea's easternmost islets of Dokdo, Takeshima as it's known in Japan, was the habitat of sea lions where Japanese fishermen used to catch fish.
Children playing with sea lions dreamed of becoming a fisherman so they could catch fish in Takeshima.
The 17-minute-long video was uploaded onto YouTube by an office affiliated to the Japanese cabinet. It will be used as elementary school material to teach children that Dokdo is Japanese territory.
Japan's Takeshima is waiting for us beyond the waves.
The Japanese government has been intensifying its history distortion by making unjustified claims to Dokdo. In 2013, Tokyo distributed a video claiming sovereignty over Korea's islets, and last year it stated in elementary school textbooks that Korea is illegally occupying the territory.
In 1905, the Japanese government reaffirmed its intention to claim sovereignty over Takeshima by a cabinet decision.
It's not stopping there either. Along with its persistent promotional activities, Japan is also aiming to secure the abundant resources the islets offer. Tokyo plans to invest some $18 million to carry out research on methane hydrate in the East Sea. Studies suggest some 600 million tons of the future energy resource is located around Dokdo. Son Jung-in, Arirang News.
And staying with the topic, if you click on the Korean map of the CIA World Factbook, today you will have a hard time finding Dokdo Island. But when you click on the Japanese map, you will find them marked as the Liangkurt Rocks. Up until now, the CIA had included Dokdo in both versions of the map and said both Seoul and Tokyo claimed the rocky islets, which have been Korea-controlled since 1954. The CIA has provided no indication as to why the change was made, but analysts believe it may have come as the result of lobbying by Japan, which has been trying to assert its claims to Dokdo through the international community.
The amount of investment coming into Korea from abroad reached $19 billion in 2014. Government officials attribute the record-breaking figure to relaxed regulations and more opportunities to explain Korea's merits to the heads of foreign investment firms. For more, here's our Song Ji-sun.
Seoul proved to be an attractive investment destination for foreign investors last year, thanks to a wider network of free trade deals and government support for direct investment. According to the Trade Ministry on Monday, total foreign direct investment came to $19 billion last year, up more than 30% from a year earlier, and topping the previous record set in 2012. By region, investment from China soared nearly 150% to $1.2 billion. China's investment portfolio is diverse as well, ranging from resort complexes to cultural contents and fashion. Investment from the U.S. also edged up, reflecting the economic recovery there, but the amount from Japan shrunk due to the weakening Japanese yen. Foreign direct investment rose across all sectors from manufacturing to services, especially in parts production and business consulting. The Trade Ministry said an easing of regulations, coupled with a boost in investment sentiment following recent FTAs, encouraged foreign investors to increase their input in Korea. Seoul is now looking to top the $20 billion mark in foreign direct investment in 2015. 송지선, Arirang News.
A Korean business center will be set up in Beijing to support Korean tech firms entering the Chinese market. The Science Ministry says the Korea Innovation Center, which will be up and running by the end of the year, will help domestic startups and businesses commercialize their new technologies in China. The ministry will also work with the Korea-China Science and Technology Cooperation Center, also located in Beijing. China will become the third country where such center is established, following the U.S. and Belgium. Another one is expected to open in Moscow in the near future. The number of jobs created last year hit a record high not seen since 2002. But zoom in for a closer look and it's not all that encouraging. Most of that number entails part-time, contract positions, and more jobs for those in their 50s and 60s rather than the younger workforce. Our Connie Kim has the details.
Statistics Korea says an average of 543,000 new jobs were created each month between January and November of 2014, which is the highest in 12 years. The country's employment rate also topped 65% last year, up nearly a percentage point from the previous year. And while the figures are encouraging, the state of the employment market is not. Young people in their 20s and 30s continue to struggle to find work. 20-somethings took up just over a tenth of those who got new jobs last year. Those in their 30s fared worse, recording an average 20,000 less jobs per month. In contrast, people in their 50s and 60s accounted for more than 4/5 of new jobs created in the 11 months. Compounding concerns is the fact that more than a third of the labor market, more than 6 million people, are contract workers. And to tackle that issue, the government has proposed plans to improve working conditions for them. This includes extending the contract period for temporary workers who are 35 and older to 4 years from the current 2. Analysts have also called for fundamental reforms to the current wage system that hands out raises to individuals based on how long they've been working, regardless of the quality of their work. The OECD says Korea has the 6th most complicated procedures among member countries for laying off a regular worker. Connie Kim, Arirang News.
One of the world's biggest tech gadget fairs, the Consumer Electronics Show, will kick off in Las Vegas this week. Ahead of the event, our Kim Young-gil helps take a sneak peek at what Korea's tech giants have in store.
The 2015 Consumer Electronics Show that kicks off on Tuesday in Las Vegas is a showground for the latest advancements in TV technology. For Samsung Electronics and LG, that means showing off its quantum dot and OLED televisions. The quantum dot technology uses tiny nanocrystals that can provide a wider range of colors than OLED screens, with a much cheaper manufacturing process. Both Samsung and LG are slated to introduce their respective 65-inch versions in Vegas. Samsung's Quantum Dot TV has already won the CES Innovation Award. OLED televisions will also have a place at the table. LG is showcasing its first curved 55-inch ultra-high-definition OLED TV at CES. It comes with a price tag of $3,500. There is also speculation that Samsung will use the Consumer Electronics Show to show off its Tizen TVs. The company plans to run the Tizen operating system on all of its smart, internet-connected TVs starting this year. It will come with several new features, including easier sharing between TV sets and mobile phones through a redesigned interface. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
Well, the birth of Ramen here in Korea came with Samyang foods back in the 1960s. Back then, it was considered an instant and quite a cheap way to substitute a meal.
And how long we've come, that image has been slowly changing, and now more Korean firms are trying to enter the international markets. And we already see a lot of Korean labels out in various grocery stores around the world when it comes to ramen. And it looks like we might have more names added to that list. Our Shin Se-min takes a look at the country's instant noodle or ramen market.
The average Korean slurps up on 74 packets of ramen or instant noodles every year. Now that breaks down to 1 packet every 5 days. Now, Korean ramen companies are exporting their products to every corner of the world so you can have a taste of Korean ramen.
3 minutes is all you need to get it ready. Widely known for being packed with calories and carbohydrates, but still loved by the masses, Korean ramen is embedded in the culture. The concept of ramen was first introduced by Samyang Foods in the early 1960s as a means to feed those suffering from food shortages. The packet with high nutrition was a quick solution to many Koreans' malnourished stomachs. In the 60 years since, ramen has become a comfort food for many Koreans.
It's a little fattening, but it's hard to resist, so I keep coming back.
It's convenient and tasty. I think I eat ramen 2 or 3 times a week, and I'm not sick of it at all.
The flavor of ramyeon can be played around with. It's spicy and you can add in vegetables or seafood for a different taste. It's one of the reasons many consumers like Korean ramen.
Domestically, the ramen market grew to $1.8 billion, up 500 million in just past 5 years. Korean ramen makers didn't stop there. They're expanding overseas. The noodles can now be found in some 120 countries worldwide.
Ramen itself takes up 18% of all agricultural and food exports. A lot of factors come into play. The Korean wave is one. It caught on in the Chinese market, which is now the largest overseas consumer of Korean ramen.
The road to success hasn't been without obstacles. Various regulations in certain countries once kept ramen makers out of foreign markets. Take Turkey, for example. Samyang was barred from introducing its ramen product in the country due to Turkish regulations on the labeling of GMO food products. And in the U.S., strict food import regulations that contain beef hindered the export of Korean-made ramen. But that problem was solved by setting up a local factory.
Reaching out to different markets is always a challenge, but we continue to explore customers with different backgrounds. For instance, we are working on entering the African and European markets now.
Samyang Food Corporation wants ramen to become a household name throughout the world. And until the company is able to bypass the obstacles to entering the untapped markets, their experimentations with the flavors of Korean ramen that will suit foreign palates is an ongoing project. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Well, it was pretty mild today. We could shed those thick coats for one day. It felt almost like spring.
That's right. For more on the weather, let's turn to our Michelle Park standing by. Michelle, so what can you tell us?
Good evening, Hyungyung and Daniel. Like you said, it was relatively warm today, but I hope you have your umbrellas with you since the rain clouds are currently moving in from the west. And we are expecting large amounts of precipitation on Jeju Island and in the southern regions, while only up to 5 to 10 centimeters are expected in the central. However, due to the drops in temperatures, Gangwon will see snow between 1 and 3 centimeters in most areas, although the upper regions of the province could see up to 7. Now, by tomorrow morning, all of the rain should be gone, but it will be colder than today. And in fact, the rest of the week looks pretty chilly with lows near -10 degrees on Wednesdays and Thursday. And now to our readings for tomorrow. So we'll start off the Tuesday morning at -3 and gets up to 0 in the afternoon. Meanwhile, the southern cities such as Daegu and Busan will be higher at 7 and 12 degrees. And moving over to other regions, Jeju Island gets up to 10, Dokdo at 8, while Mangkeungang be quite cold at -6 degrees. Well, that's all for now, Michelle Park, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thanks for that, Michelle. Well, that does it for us. Have a great start to your day or a safe drive home. This has been Daniel Che.
And I'm Nai Hyun-kyung from us and the rest of the team. Thanks for watching. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.